Welcome back to another episode of Infidelity Tales Lab. We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Fractures. Vincent Reynolds stood at the edge of his meticulously landscaped backyard, admiring the sunset while nursing a glass of bourbon. The sprawling property, a testament to his 20 years of work as a military intelligence officer turned private security consultant, stretched before him like a kingdom. At 52, Vincent had built a life most would envy. A beautiful home in Northern Virginia, 2 children in college, and respect in both government and private sectors. The sound of laughter drifted through the evening air. Vincent turned to see his wife, Dominique, sitting on the patio with her phone pressed to her ear, her face illuminated by something more than just the setting sun. Vincent had seen that expression before, not directed at him for years, but he recognized it nonetheless. The intimate smile, the hushed tones, the way her fingers twirled her dark hair. "I should go. He's standing right there," Dominique whispered, ending the call abruptly when she noticed Vincent watching. "Just Marissa from book club," she explained, sliding the phone into her pocket. Vincent nodded, his face betraying nothing. Marissa from book club. The same excuse for the past 3 months. The same lie that had worn thin weeks ago when Vincent had first noticed the signs. Late nights, new clothes, renewed interest in fitness, and the distinctive scent of unfamiliar cologne that sometimes lingered on her clothes. Their 25-year marriage had weathered many storms, his long deployments, the stress of raising their children, Noah and Sophia, and the challenge of reinventing himself in civilian life. But this was different. Vincent knew the landscape of deception better than most. His career had been built on identifying falsehoods and extracting truths. Noah called, Vincent said, changing the subject. He's excited about bringing his new girlfriend to the family reunion next month. "Oh, that's wonderful," Dominique replied, her interest seemingly genuine. Their son, now 22 and in his final year of university, had always been closer to his mother. Did he mention if Sophia would make it? Vincent shook his head. "Still in Europe with her research team. Says she'll try, but it's not looking promising." Their daughter, 24 and brilliant, had inherited Vincent's analytical mind and Dominique's determination. Currently pursuing her doctorate in infectious disease research, Sophia had always been daddy's girl, observant, perceptive, and fiercely loyal. That night, as Dominique slept beside him, Vincent lay awake, mentally compiling the evidence he'd gathered over recent weeks. The text messages he'd seen reflected on their bedroom window while she texted in the bathroom. The credit card statements showing lunch charges for 2 at hotels where no business meetings were scheduled. The GPS history on her car that didn't match her stories. Vincent had never intended to spy on his wife, but 20 years in intelligence had made certain habits second nature. Observation, pattern recognition, threat assessment. He knew who the man was. Preston Harlow, 48, recently divorced, a pharmaceutical sales executive who had met Dominique at a charity gala 6 months ago. Preston with his Italian suits and Mediterranean yacht photos on social media. Preston who had never served his country or known true sacrifice. Preston who now enjoyed the fruits of Vincent's labor. Vincent Reynolds closed his eyes, not in defeat, but in calculation. There would be no confrontation, no desperate pleas or marriage counseling. That wasn't his way. Instead, as he had done countless times in his career, Vincent began constructing a mental blueprint, meticulously detailed and precisely timed. Only this blueprint wasn't for a military operation or security protocol. It was for something much more personal. Chapter 2. Confirmation. The week-long family reunion at Lake Anna was a tradition established by Vincent's parents decades ago, bringing together the extended Reynolds family each summer. This year, it coincided perfectly with Vincent's plans. The lakeside resort hummed with activity as family members from across the country converged, renting cabins clustered around the main lodge. Vincent had deliberately secured 3 cabins, one for himself and Dominique, one for Noah and his girlfriend, and a third that ostensibly remained empty, awaiting Sophia's potential arrival. Vincent watched from the deck of the main lodge as Preston's silver BMW pulled into the resort's parking area. Right on schedule. Dominique had claimed she needed a drive separately due to errands on the way. The reunion provided the perfect cover. Her lover could easily blend in among distant relatives and family friends. Vincent, how long has it been? Preston approached with practiced confidence, extending his hand as though they were old acquaintances rather than strategic introductions orchestrated by Dominique over the past few months. Preston, good to see you, Vincent replied with calculated warmth, shaking the man's hand firmly. Dominique mentioned you might stop by. Wouldn't miss it. Preston smiled, his perfect veneers gleaming in the sunlight. Your family reunions are legendary, according to her. Vincent nodded. 27 years running. My father started the tradition before he passed. Preston's eyes darted around, clearly searching for Dominique. Beautiful place. I can see why you keep coming back. Family is everything, Vincent replied, voice steady despite the rage simmering beneath his composed exterior. The day progressed with forced pleasantries, Vincent maintaining his role as gracious host while observing every interaction between his wife and her lover. Their attempts at discretion were almost insulting in their transparency. Brief touches when passing drinks, knowing glances across the picnic area, and synchronized bathroom breaks that lasted suspiciously long. By evening, most family members had gathered around a massive bonfire on the beach. Vincent stood apart, nursing a whiskey when Noah approached, his girlfriend Tessa lingering behind. Dad, can we talk? Noah asked, his expression serious beyond his years. Of course, son. Noah guided them away from the crowd. I know about Mom and Preston. Vincent said nothing, watching his son's face carefully. She told me a few weeks ago, Noah continued. She said you two haven't really been married in any real way for years. Just going through the motions. Vincent took a measured sip of his whiskey. And you believe that? I've seen how you are, Dad. Always distant, always working. Mom says you checked out of the marriage years ago. Noah's voice hardened. Preston actually listens to her. He makes her happy. Vincent absorbed the blow without flinching. I see. I wanted you to know that I know. And that it's okay if you guys split up. People grow apart. Noah shifted uncomfortably. Preston's actually pretty cool. He's already offered to help me get an internship at his company. Vincent nodded slowly. That's generous of him. Yeah, well, Noah shrugged, looking away. He's a better father anyway. The word struck like precision artillery, but Vincent merely checked his watch. I appreciate your honesty, Noah. Excuse me for a moment. Vincent walked toward the dock where Dominique stood with Preston, their silhouettes outlined against the moonlit lake. As he approached, he overheard their laughter. 15 years wasted on that loser, Dominique chuckled, leaning into Preston's embrace. He doesn't even suspect a thing. Vincent cleared his throat, and they jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Vincent, I didn't see you there, Dominique stammered, her face flushing. Clearly, Vincent replied coolly. He checked his watch again. I'm heading back to our cabin. Don't wait up. As he turned to leave, Preston called after him. Hey, Vincent, no hard feelings, right? These things happen. Vincent paused, then simply nodded and walked away, ignoring the muffled laughter that resumed behind him. Instead of returning to the cabin, he walked to his SUV and drove away from the resort, his phone already connecting to a secure call. Is everything in place? He asked when the call connected. Yes, sir, replied the voice on the other end. All systems are ready. Activation on your command. Good. Execute at 0600 hours. No deviations. Vincent ended the call and continued driving, his face illuminated by the dashboard lights. Not in anguish, but in cold, calculated anticipation. Chapter 3. Genesis. The morning sun had barely crested the horizon when Vincent returned to the resort. He parked his SUV and walked deliberately toward the main lodge, where early risers were already gathering for coffee. He had just poured himself a cup when his phone vibrated with a news alert. At precisely the same moment, other phones throughout the lodge began chiming and buzzing as the same alert reached them. Vincent watched impassively as people's expressions morphed from sleepy indifference to shock. "Oh my God," gasped an elderly aunt, staring at her screen. "Preston Harlow is a terrorist?" "What?" someone else exclaimed, gathering around her phone. Vincent sipped his coffee and observed as the news spread like wildfire through the gathering. Headlines screamed across every screen. "Breaking! Pharmaceutical executive Preston Harlow linked to bioweapon development. Top secret documents reveal Harlow Pharmaceuticals tested illegal compounds on unwitting patients. FBI raids Harlow residence and corporate headquarters." Accompanying the headlines were photos of Preston being led away in handcuffs from a location that, to the untrained eye, appeared recent. In reality, Vincent knew these were carefully doctored images created by former colleagues still indebted to him. Dominique burst into the lodge, her face ashen. "Have you seen the news? This can't be real." Vincent regarded her calmly. "Shocking, isn't it? But it's impossible. I know Preston. He wouldn't." She stopped abruptly, realizing her mistake. "Know him well, do you?" Vincent asked, his voice eerily gentle. Before she could respond, federal agents flooded into the lodge, their FBI jackets unmistakable. Leading them was Special Agent Derek Walsh, a man who owed his career and his life to Vincent after a classified operation in Kandahar 12 years earlier. "Preston Harlow?" Walsh called out, scanning the room. All eyes turned to the entrance where Preston stood frozen, having just arrived from his cabin. His face drained of color as he registered the agents and the situation unfolding. "Preston Harlow, you're under arrest for conspiracy against the United States, illegal weapons development, and treason," Walsh announced, advancing toward him. "This is insane. I've done nothing wrong." Preston protested as agents surrounded him. "Vincent, tell them this is a mistake." Vincent merely sipped his coffee, watching as Preston's gaze shifted from pleading to dawning comprehension. "You," Preston whispered. "You did this." Vincent remained silent as the agents handcuffed Preston and began reading him his rights. "How could you?" Dominique hissed at Vincent, her eyes wild with panic. "What have you done?" "Me?" Vincent replied softly. "I've simply been a dedicated civil servant all my life. I report threats when I see them." He nodded toward Agent Walsh, who was now approaching Dominique. "Mrs. Reynolds? We have some questions about your relationship with Mr. Harlow," Walsh stated professionally. "We've discovered numerous communications between you suggesting you may have been aware of his activities." "That's ridiculous. I knew nothing about any of this." Dominique protested. "The evidence suggests otherwise," Walsh replied. "We'll need you to come with us for questioning." As agents escorted both Dominique and Preston out, Noah pushed through the crowd, his expression a mixture of confusion and betrayal. "Dad, what the hell is happening?" he demanded. Vincent placed his coffee cup down carefully. "It appears your mother and her boyfriend have been involved in something very dangerous, Noah. I'm as shocked as you are. This is bullshit. You did something, didn't you?" Noah accused, his voice cracking. Vincent met his son's gaze steadily. "I've spent my life protecting this country from threats. Son, that's all I've ever done." As Noah stormed off, Vincent's phone vibrated with a text from Sophia. Phase 1 complete. Arriving tonight for Phase 2. "Well done, Dad." Vincent allowed himself the briefest smile before composing his features into an appropriate mask of concern and confusion. Around him, the family chaos provided perfect cover as he slipped away to prepare for what would come next. This was merely the beginning. Chapter 4: Revelations. 3 days after the arrests, Vincent sat across from Noah in a quiet corner of a Washington, D.C. cafe. The young man looked haggard, his eyes shadowed from sleepless nights spent watching his mother and Preston being vilified across every news outlet in the country. "The evidence is fabricated," Noah stated flatly, pushing away his untouched coffee. "I've spoken to Mom's lawyer. They can't find any actual links between Preston's company and these supposed bioweapons." Vincent nodded thoughtfully. "That's good news, then. If they're innocent, the truth will come out." "Cut the crap, Dad," Noah snapped. "You're behind this. I don't know how, but this has your fingerprints all over it." Vincent studied his son, recognizing the intelligence that had always made Noah exceptional. Why would I do something like that? Revenge, Noah replied without hesitation. Mom cheated on you, so you're destroying her life and Preston's. It's sick. An interesting theory, Vincent conceded. But consider this. If I had the power to orchestrate something of this magnitude, what does that tell you about the man you've dismissed as a loser who was checked out of his marriage? Noah fell silent, confusion crossing his features. Did your mother ever tell you what I actually did during those years I was distant and always working? Vincent asked quietly. Government security consultant. Noah answered automatically. Vincent smiled thinly. A convenient title. Tell me, what do you know about Preston beyond his sales job and his yacht? He's successful. He cares about Mom. Did you know he was investigated 3 years ago for selling pharmaceutical secrets to foreign entities? Vincent interrupted, sliding a file across the table. That his company has been quietly acquiring small biotech firms specializing in weaponized pathogens. Noah stared at the file, but didn't touch it. If that's true, why wasn't he arrested before? Powerful friends. Money in the right pockets. Vincent shrugged. The system isn't perfect. So what are you saying? That Mom accidentally fell in love with an actual criminal. Vincent leaned forward. I'm saying perhaps I was absent from family dinners because I was protecting our country from people exactly like Preston Harlow. And perhaps your mother's infidelity simply provided the motivation to look more closely at a man I already had concerns about. Noah's hands trembled slightly as he finally opened the file, scanning documents bearing authentic government seals and classifications. This doesn't justify framing them, he insisted, but with less conviction. I haven't framed anyone, Noah. I simply provided intelligence to the appropriate authorities. Vincent's voice remained calm. The question you should be asking is not why I would do this, but why your mother chose a man like Preston in the first place. Noah looked up sharply. What does that mean? Did you know your mother met Preston 3 years ago, not 6 months ago as she claimed? Vincent produced another document, a surveillance photo dated well before Dominique's supposed first meeting with Preston, or that she's visited his private account in the Cayman Islands twice in the past year. She wouldn't. Noah stammered. The internship he offered you? Vincent continued relentlessly. The position reports directly to a research division currently under investigation by 3 separate agencies. Noah pushed back from the table, his face pale. I don't believe you. You don't have to, Vincent replied, gathering the documents. But you might want to reconsider who the villain is in this story. As Noah stormed out of the cafe, Vincent's phone rang. The caller ID showed Sophia. He's struggling with it, Vincent reported when he answered. As expected, Sophia replied. The Swiss account transfers are complete. Are you sure about the next step? It's extreme, even for them. They chose their path, Vincent stated, his voice hardening. And Noah made his choice clear at the reunion. He's just a kid, Dad. He didn't understand. He's 22, Sophia, old enough to publicly declare another man a better father while knowing what her mother was doing. Vincent's tone brooked no argument. Actions have consequences. After ending the call, Vincent walked to his car where Derek Walsh waited. The federal charges won't stick, Walsh warned without preamble. My superiors are already questioning the evidence. They don't need to stick, Vincent replied, sliding into the passenger seat. They just needed to exist long enough to trigger the international attention. Walsh nodded grimly. Interpol has issued their own warrants based on European distribution channels linked to Harlow. That's beyond my jurisdiction and my help. I never expected the American charges to be the end of it, Vincent assured him. Just the beginning. How's the surveillance on Noah? In place. He's angry, confused. Made 3 calls to your wife's attorney after leaving you. Walsh hesitated. Are you sure about bringing him into this? He's your son. Vincent stared out the window at the Capitol dome gleaming in the distance. My son died at that reunion when he chose them over the truth. What remains is a pawn in a larger game. Walsh shook his head slightly, but said nothing more as they drove toward Vincent's next appointment, with a Russian intelligence officer who had requested this meeting through old back channels. The game was expanding precisely as Vincent had designed it to. Chapter 5. Acceleration. The exclusive private club in Georgetown provided perfect cover for Vincent's meeting with Alexei Petrov, a mid-level SVR officer operating under diplomatic cover at the Russian embassy. They sat in a wood-paneled alcove, classical music masking their conversation from potential eavesdroppers. "Your wife and her lover have created quite the international incident," Alexei remarked, sipping his vodka. "Moscow is particularly interested in the Novichok derivative formulas allegedly found on Harlow's servers." "Imagine that," Vincent replied neutrally. Alexei smiled thinly. "We both know those formulas were planted. The question is, by whom? You or someone using you? Does it matter? The evidence exists, and multiple intelligence agencies are now investigating connections that weren't on their radar before. It matters to those of us trying to determine if this is personal revenge or something more geopolitically motivated." Alexei studied Vincent carefully. "Your daughter's research in Europe, so close to our Ukrainian operations, has not gone unnoticed." Vincent's expression didn't change, though internally he noted that Sophia's cover was holding perfectly. "My daughter is a medical researcher, nothing more." "Of course," Alexei conceded with obvious disbelief. "Just as you're merely a retired security consultant. Tell me, does Noah understand the role he's playing in your chess match?" The mention of his son's name from the Russians' lips sent a cold surge through Vincent, though he betrayed nothing. "I wasn't aware he was playing any role." "No." Alexei produced a phone showing surveillance photos. Noah entering the Russian consulate in Boston 2 hours earlier. "It seems he's shopping quite an interesting story to anyone who'll listen. Claims his father has fabricated evidence against his mother and her lover. Wants help proving it." Vincent absorbed this information with practiced calm. The desperate actions of a confused young man. "Perhaps," Alexei agreed. "Or the opening moves of a counterplay you didn't anticipate. We're considering hearing him out." "I wouldn't recommend that," Vincent said softly, the subtle threat hanging in the air between them. Alexei chuckled. "Always the protective father, despite everything. Don't worry, Vincent. We didn't let him in. But others might, the Chinese perhaps, or the Iranians. Your son is broadcasting his willingness to provide information on a decorated American intelligence operative in exchange for help exonerating his mother. That makes him valuable. And dangerous," Vincent added. "Indeed." Alexei finished his drink. "Dominique has been moved to a secure facility pending additional questioning. Diplomatic pressure from 3 countries has escalated her case beyond standard channels." This was news to Vincent. "Which countries?" "Germany, France, and surprisingly, Japan. All places where Harlow Pharmaceuticals has subsidiaries currently under inspection." Alexei stood to leave. "Whatever game you're playing, Vincent, it has expanded beyond your control. That's usually when mistakes happen." After Alexei departed, Vincent sat alone, processing this development. Noah's betrayal cut deeper than expected, but it also presented an opportunity to accelerate the timetable. Vincent placed a call to a secure line. "Change of plans. Activate Protocol Judas immediately." Across town, Sophia Reynolds received the message while monitoring communications from a safe house established weeks earlier. Unlike her brother, Sophia had never been fooled by her mother's facade. Growing up watching Dominique manipulate her father had forged Sophia's unwavering loyalty and her willingness to participate in Vincent's intricate revenge plan. Sophia initiated a sequence of encrypted commands that would trigger digital tripwires planted throughout Dominique's and Preston's digital lives. Within hours, every dark secret they had tried to bury would begin surfacing in carefully orchestrated revelations. Meanwhile, Noah paced his hotel room, furious after being turned away from the Russian consulate. His phone rang, a blocked number. "Hello," he answered cautiously. "Noah Reynolds?" An accented voice inquired. "This is a friend. I understand you're looking for help regarding your mother's situation." "Who is this?" "Someone who shares your concern about the evidence against Preston Harlow and Dominique Reynolds. Perhaps we could meet?" Noah hesitated only briefly before agreeing to the meeting, unaware that the call originated from a team operating under Vincent's direct control. The trap was set. That evening, as news broke of additional evidence linking Preston to biological weapons research in North Korea, Vincent sat in his study reviewing the final stages of his plan. On his desk lay photographs, not of Dominique or Preston, but of his children. Noah, as a boy, looking up at Vincent with adoration. Sophia, graduating with honors. A family that once seemed perfect. For a brief moment, Vincent allowed himself to feel the weight of what was being lost in his pursuit of justice. Then he thought of the family reunion, of the public humiliation, of 15 years being dismissed as wasted on a loser, and his resolve hardened once more. By tomorrow, there would be no turning back for any of them. Chapter 6: Escalation. The abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Baltimore had once housed medical supplies, an ironic setting for Noah's meeting with a mysterious contact who had promised evidence exonerating his mother. He arrived early, scanning the cavernous space with growing unease. "Hello." His voice echoed through the emptiness. "Is anyone here?" Footsteps sounded behind him. Noah turned to see a man emerge from the shadows, mid-30s, military bearing, carrying a leather briefcase. "Mr. Reynolds," the man greeted him. "Thank you for coming. You said you have information about my mother's case," Noah prompted, keeping his distance. "Indeed." The man placed the briefcase on a dusty countertop. "But first, I need to understand why you believe your father fabricated evidence." Noah hesitated. "Because I know my father. He's calculating, cold. He found out my mom was having an affair, and instead of confronting it like a normal person, he did this." "Interesting." The man nodded thoughtfully. "And you believe your father possesses the capability to frame two innocent people so thoroughly that multiple intelligence agencies are involved?" "He worked in government intelligence for decades," Noah replied. "He has connections." "Impressive for a man you described to others as a loser," the man observed, his tone hardening slightly. Noah froze, the implication sinking in. "Wait, who are you really?" The warehouse lights suddenly blazed to full brightness, revealing a dozen operatives in tactical gear positioned throughout the space. Among them stood Sophia, her expression grim as she approached her brother. "Hello, Noah," she said quietly. "Sophia? What the hell is going on?" Noah demanded, panic rising in his voice. "Education," she replied simply. "You've spent years believing Mom's version of reality. Now you get to see the truth." The man with the briefcase opened it to reveal a sophisticated computer setup. With a few keystrokes, the warehouse walls illuminated with projected images, surveillance photos, documents, and video footage. "Preston Harlow," the man began, gesturing to the displays. "Former Naval Intelligence officer dishonorably discharged in 2007 for selling classified information. Reinvented himself in the pharmaceutical industry using contacts from his military days." "That's not." Noah started to protest. "Your mother met Preston in 2020 during a classified operation your father was leading in Vienna," Sophia continued, advancing the displays to show dated photographs of Dominique and Preston at a gala. "She was there as Dad's cover. Preston was there representing interests that directly opposed American security." Noah shook his head in disbelief. "Mom isn't a spy. She's an interior designer." "Mom is whatever she needs to be," Sophia corrected him. "Interior designer. Loving wife. Spy. Did you never wonder how her small design firm could afford her lifestyle? How she always seemed to travel to the same cities where Dad had operations?" The displays changed to financial records, showing millions flowing through accounts in Dominique's name. "Your mother has been selling information from Dad's operations for years," Sophia stated flatly. "At first to fund her lifestyle, later because she developed ideological sympathies with Preston's employers." "This is insane," Noah whispered, backing away. "Dad put you up to this. This is all part of his revenge." "Is this revenge too?" The man activated a final display showing Noah himself, meeting with Preston at his company headquarters months before the family reunion. "You were being recruited, Noah, not for an internship, but as an asset, leveraging your resentment toward your father to gain access to his knowledge." Noah stared at the footage in horror, recognizing the meeting but seeing it through an entirely different lens. "I didn't know." I thought it was just about an internship. You didn't want to know? Sophia corrected him. You were so eager to believe Dad was the villain that you never questioned why Preston Harlow, a pharmaceutical executive you barely knew, would take such interest in a college student with no experience in his field. Noah sank onto a nearby crate, his world collapsing around him. Where's Dad now? Completing what he started, Sophia answered. The question is, which side are you on, Noah? Because after tonight, there's no middle ground left. Across the city, Vincent sat opposite Dominique in a sterile interview room within a federal detention facility. She looked haggard, her designer clothes exchanged for a standard-issue jumpsuit, her makeup-free face showing everyone her 50 years. I always knew you were vindictive, Vincent, but this? Dominique gestured at their surroundings. Treason charges? International warrants? All because I fell in love with someone else. Is that what you think this is about? Vincent asked mildly. What else? You couldn't stand being left, so you fabricated this fantasy that Preston and I are criminals. She leaned forward, dropping her voice. The lawyers say none of it will stick. You've overplayed your hand. Vincent smiled slightly. Did Preston ever tell you about his time in Belgrade? Or his special arrangement with the North Korean pharmaceutical program? Dominique's expression flickered briefly. More lies. Perhaps, Vincent conceded, but effective ones, judging by how quickly international agencies became involved. Tell me, do you remember a vacation we took to Lake Geneva in 2016? You insisted on that specific hotel, the one with the private boat launch. The color drained from Dominique's face. That was years ago. Indeed, during an operation tracking biological agents moving through Switzerland. Curious timing for you to suddenly desire a Swiss vacation, especially at a hotel where 3 known arms dealers were staying. Vincent tilted his head. I've overlooked so many coincidences over the years, Dominique. So many strange alignments between your social calendar and sensitive operations. You're delusional, she whispered, but without conviction. The affairs I could have forgiven, Vincent continued, as if she hadn't spoken. The disrespect, even the poisoning of Noah against me. But selling out your country? Endangering operations that cost good people their lives. His voice remained steady even as his eyes hardened. That's unforgivable. I want my lawyer, Dominique demanded, standing abruptly. By all means, Vincent agreed, also rising. Though you might want to wait until tomorrow. Tonight, Interpol is executing search warrants on 17 properties connected to you and Preston across 9 countries. Whatever they find will significantly impact your legal strategy. As Vincent turned to leave, Dominique called after him. You won't win this, Vincent. You've never understood how many friends I have, how many people would choose me over you. Noah already has. Vincent paused at the door. About Noah, you might be surprised by his current perspective. Family reunions can be so enlightening. The look of uncertainty that crossed Dominique's face was all the confirmation Vincent needed. The seeds of doubt had been planted. As he exited the facility, his phone vibrated with a message from Sophia. Noah's in. Operation Severance is go. Vincent allowed himself a genuine smile for the first time in months as he texted back a single word, execute. Chapter 7, Demolition. 3 weeks after Dominique's arrest, international news outlets exploded with a new revelation. Comprehensive evidence had emerged showing Preston Harlow's pharmaceutical empire was built on stolen research, much of it from classified military medical programs. More damning still were documented connections to bioweapon programs in multiple countries, all trails leading back to companies where Dominique Reynolds served as a silent partner or consultant. Vincent watched the coverage from a secure facility in Northern Virginia, surrounded by monitors displaying real-time reactions across global intelligence communities. Beside him sat Noah, still shell-shocked from his rapid education and his family's true history, but determined to make amends for his blind loyalty to his mother. They're saying Mom could face the death penalty, Noah said quietly, staring at a news ticker scrolling across one screen. That's unlikely, Vincent replied. She'll be offered a deal in exchange for information on Preston's network. Will she take it? Vincent considered the question. No, her ego won't allow her to implicate herself, even to save her own life. She still believes her connections will protect her. Noah shook his head in disbelief. How did I never see any of this growing up? Your mother is exceptional at compartmentalization, Vincent explained. And I deliberately kept both you and Sophia insulated from my work. Not Sophia, Noah corrected him. She's been working with you for years, hasn't she? Vincent nodded, pride evident in his expression. Since college. Her medical research position is genuine, but also provides excellent cover for intelligence gathering. The door opened and Sophia entered, carrying several tablets. It's done, she announced. Preston's lawyer just received the evidence package. He's already called 3 times requesting a meeting. And the offshore accounts? Vincent asked. Frozen. All 15 of them, Sophia confirmed. The London and Zurich properties have been seized. Mom's design firm is being raided as we speak. Vincent turned to Noah. Are you still certain you want to proceed with your part? Noah squared his shoulders. Yes, I need to make this right. Hours later, Noah sat across from his mother in the same interview room Vincent had used. Dominique brightened at the sight of her son, reaching for his hands across the table. Noah, thank God. Have you spoken to the lawyers? This nightmare. I know everything, Mom. Noah interrupted, pulling his hands back. About you and Preston. About what you've been doing all these years. Dominique's expression hardened. Your father got to you. No, Mom. The truth got to me. Noah placed a document on the table. A sworn affidavit. I'm testifying against you and Preston. About the meetings, the recruitment attempts, everything. You can't be serious, Dominique hissed. After everything I've done for you, I protected you from knowing what your father really is. A cold, calculating killer who values his missions more than his family. That's exactly what you wanted me to believe, Noah acknowledged. But now I understand why he was distant. He was protecting us from the consequences of your actions. Dominique's face contorted with rage. You ungrateful little. Save it, Mom. Noah cut her off, rising. The prosecutors have offered me immunity in exchange for my testimony. I suggest you consider a similar arrangement while it's still available. As he turned to leave, Dominique called after him. He'll discard you too, Noah. Vincent doesn't forgive betrayal. Ever. Ask him about Cairo if you don't believe me. Noah paused at the door. I already know about Cairo, Mom. The difference is I'm owning my mistakes. You're still denying yours. Across town, Vincent met with Preston's attorney in an upscale law office. The lawyer, sweating despite the powerful air conditioning, pushed a proposal across the polished table. My client is willing to provide complete details on Mrs. Reynolds' involvement in exchange for considerations regarding his sentencing, the attorney explained. Vincent reviewed the document dispassionately. Your client seems to be under the impression that this is a negotiation. Mr. Reynolds, surely you understand the value of Mr. Harlow's cooperation, the lawyer pressed. He could provide names, dates, account numbers, everything your wife did while using his business as cover. Interesting that 48 hours ago, Mr. Harlow was proclaiming both his and my wife's complete innocence, Vincent observed. Quite the reversal. The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. New evidence has created new perspectives. Indeed, Vincent slid the proposal back untouched. Please inform Mr. Harlow that his offer is declined. The evidence against both him and my wife is more than sufficient without his cooperation. But the lawyer sputtered. Also, Vincent continued as if the man hadn't spoken. Inform him that additional information regarding his activities in Damascus in 2018 will be provided to prosecutors tomorrow morning. He might want to adjust his legal strategy accordingly. The color drained from the lawyer's face. Damascus? There's nothing in the current charges about Damascus. Not yet, Vincent agreed, standing to leave. Give Mr. Harlow my regards. That evening, Vincent convened with his team, trusted former colleagues, intelligence operatives who owed him their lives or careers, and his children. The conference room wall displayed a complex flowchart of operations spanning 2 decades. We've dismantled their financial resources, Sophia reported. Every account we know about has been frozen or seized. Their social capital is equally compromised, added Alan Merritt, a former CIA deputy director. Preston's political connections have all distanced themselves. Dominique's influential friends have gone silent. What about the unknown factors? Vincent asked. Dominique's reference to friends suggests contingencies we haven't identified. We've been monitoring all communications, Noah offered, now fully integrated into the team. Nothing unusual has been detected. Vincent nodded thoughtfully. Then we proceed to the final phase. Sophia, initiate protocol severance. As the team dispersed to execute their assignments, Vincent stood alone before the flowchart, studying the intricate connections he had spent weeks mapping and was now systematically destroying. Each node represented a relationship, an asset, a protection that Dominique and Preston had cultivated over years. One by one, the nodes on the display began changing from green to red as Vincent's team executed protocol severance, the complete and irreversible isolation of the targets from every resource and relationship they had ever established. By morning, Preston Harlow and Dominique Reynolds would stand entirely alone against the full force of international justice, precisely as Vincent had planned from the moment he had walked away from that family reunion 3 months earlier. Chapter 8. Isolation. 2 days before the preliminary hearing that would determine whether Preston and Dominique would be tried separately or together, Vincent received an unexpected visitor at his Virginia home. Special Agent Walsh arrived without warning, his expression grave. "We have a situation," Walsh announced without preamble. "Dominique has disappeared from federal custody." Vincent's expression didn't change. Disappeared during transfer to the courthouse for a pretrial meeting with her attorneys. Walsh ran a hand through his thinning hair. The transport vehicle was found abandoned, both agents unconscious but alive. No sign of Dominique. Vincent nodded slowly. The contingency she hinted at. Impressive. Walsh studied him carefully. "You don't seem surprised." "I'm not," Vincent admitted. "Dominique always maintains escape routes. I've been expecting something like this since her arrest. My superiors are suggesting you might be involved, creating an opportunity to deal with her personally." Vincent smiled thinly. "Your superiors credit me with too much influence over federal prisoner transportation protocols." "Maybe," Walsh conceded, "but they've authorized surveillance on you, effective immediately. Whatever history we have, Vincent, I can't interfere with that." "I wouldn't expect you to," Vincent assured him. "Tell your superiors I'll be staying right here, easily monitored. No sudden trips or unexplained absences." After Walsh departed, Vincent contacted Sophia. "Your mother has fled custody." "Right on schedule," Sophia replied, unsurprised. Facial recognition caught her boarding a private jet at a small airfield in Delaware 90 minutes ago. Destination filed as Toronto, but the flight plan diverted over Pennsylvania. "She's heading for the lake house," Vincent concluded. "Predictable. She believes the emergency documents and cash are still hidden in the boathouse safe." "They are," Sophia confirmed, along with tracking devices in every bill and document. "Noah has a team standing by 20 miles from the property. Tell him to maintain position," Vincent instructed. "She won't be alone, and I want to identify everyone involved in her escape network." For the next 18 hours, Vincent performed the role of concerned, bewildered husband perfectly. He cooperated fully with FBI surveillance, made appropriate calls to attorneys expressing shock at Dominique's escape, and appeared genuinely distressed in a brief press interaction outside his home. Meanwhile, Sophia and Noah monitored Dominique's movements from their operations center. Their mother had indeed gone directly to the family's secluded lake house in upstate New York, accompanied by 2 men identified as private military contractors with ties to Preston's overseas operations. "She accessed the safe 30 minutes ago," Noah reported. "GPS trackers show movement north toward the Canadian border." "And Preston?" Vincent asked, speaking via encrypted line from his study while FBI agents monitored the exterior of his home. "Still in custody, but his attorney has filed emergency motions claiming the evidence against him is inadmissible due to your personal involvement in the investigation," Sophia answered. "The judge has scheduled a hearing for tomorrow morning." Vincent considered this information. "Preston is a distraction. Your mother is the priority now. She'll attempt to cross at a minor checkpoint using credentials from a safe. We've alerted customs discreetly, Noah confirmed. They'll delay but not detain her, enough to allow our team to intercept before she realizes it's a trap. Good, Vincent approved. I'll join you once she's secured. The surveillance on me will ease once they believe she's fled the country. 12 hours later, Dominique Reynolds sat in a Spartan room within a hunting lodge deep in the Adirondack Mountains. Her escape had proceeded flawlessly until the border crossing, where unexpected delays had forced her to divert to a secondary route. There, her security team had been efficiently neutralized by operatives she never saw, and she had found herself transported to this isolated location. The door opened, and Vincent entered alone. I should have known, Dominique said bitterly. Was there ever really an escape, or was it all your orchestration? The escape was genuine, Vincent replied, taking a seat across from her. Your connections are impressive, or were, until recently. What happens now? You turn me over to the authorities to face a show trial based on evidence you fabricated? Vincent shook his head. Nothing I presented was fabricated, Dominique. Manipulated and strategically revealed. Yes, but every document, every photograph, every financial record is authentic. Dominique's composure faltered slightly. You can't prove intent. I don't need to. The evidence speaks for itself. Vincent leaned forward. But we're not here to discuss your legal predicament. We're here to discuss Noah. Noah. Uncertainty crossed Dominique's features. What about him? He's made his choice to testify against you, which places him at considerable risk from your remaining allies. Vincent's voice hardened. I want the names of everyone in your network who might consider him a liability. Dominique laughed incredulously. You expect me to help you protect the son who betrayed me? I expect you to do one decent thing as his mother, Vincent replied evenly. But I'm prepared for your refusal. He placed a tablet on the table, displaying a video feed of Preston Harlow in his cell, sleeping fitfully. What is this? Dominique asked, confused. Preston's cell is currently pumping in a colorless, odorless compound derived from one of his own company's experimental formulas, Vincent explained clinically. At his current exposure level, he'll experience progressive neurological deterioration over approximately 6 weeks. Symptoms begin with tremors, advance to memory loss, and culminate in complete cognitive collapse. Horror dawned on Dominique's face. You're poisoning him. I'm demonstrating consequences, Vincent corrected her. The compound can be neutralized completely if administered within the next 4 hours. After that, the damage becomes irreversible. You're bluffing, Dominique challenged. You don't have access to his cell ventilation system. Vincent simply raised an eyebrow. The same way I didn't have the capability to frame 2 innocent people for international crimes. Dominique stared at the screen, watching Preston twitch in his sleep, the first subtle sign of the compound taking effect. The name's Dominique, Vincent prompted. Every contact who might target Noah. In exchange, Preston receives the antidote. And if I refuse, then I return you to federal custody, and nature takes its course with Preston. Vincent's voice was devoid of emotion. Your choice. Dominique's eyes darted between Vincent and the screen, calculation and fear warring in her expression. Finally, resignation settled over her features. There's a ledger, she said quietly. Hidden compartment in my desk at the design firm. Names, contacts, payment records, everything. Vincent nodded. Sophia will verify that information immediately. If it's accurate and complete, Preston receives treatment for an unexpected reaction to his medication. If not, he let the implication hang in the air. You become a monster, Vincent, Dominique whispered. No, Vincent corrected her, standing to leave. I've simply become what you always accused me of being. The man who puts objectives above sentimentality. The irony is, I learned it from you. As he exited, Dominique called after him. What happens to me now? Vincent paused in the doorway. You'll face trial for everything you've done. But Noah will be safe. The only gift I have left to give the son who called me a loser. The door closed with finality, leaving Dominique alone with the consequences of 15 years of deception. Chapter 9. Terminus. 6 months after Dominique's recapture, Vincent sat alone on the deck of a modest cabin overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The property, registered under a name unknown to anyone from his former life, represented his final severance from the past. Behind him, the cabin door opened as Noah emerged with 2 cups of coffee. Court TV says the jury's been deliberating for 3 days, Noah reported, handing his father a steaming mug. Analysts are split on which way they'll go. Vincent nodded, unsurprised. Your mother's defense team mounted an impressive case. The manipulated by love narrative plays well with certain jurors. Do you think she'll be acquitted? Noah asked, taking a seat beside his father. No, Vincent replied with certainty. The evidence is too comprehensive, your testimony too damaging. But she'll likely receive a lesser sentence than Preston. Preston Harlow had already been convicted on multiple counts of espionage, sentenced to life without parole at a maximum security federal penitentiary. His mysterious neurological episode during pretrial detention had left him with persistent tremors and memory lapses that humanized him to the jury, precisely as Vincent had calculated when ordering the antidote administered at the last possible moment. I spoke with Sophia this morning, Noah mentioned. Her cover in Europe has been officially restored. The agencies are satisfied that her involvement in Mom's case was strictly familial, not operational. Vincent smiled slightly. Your sister has always been adept at managing perceptions. They sat in comfortable silence, watching waves crash against the rocky shoreline below. Vincent had officially retired from all government work, his security clearances voluntarily surrendered. Noah had withdrawn from his university program, instead pursuing specialized training with former colleagues of his father, men and women who recognized the young man's potential and his need for redemption. Do you ever regret how far it went? Noah asked suddenly. The international warrants, Preston's condition, all of it. Vincent considered the question carefully. Regret suggests I would choose differently given another opportunity. I wouldn't, not even for my sake. I was collateral damage in your war against Mom. You were a casualty of your mother's decisions long before mine. Vincent corrected him gently. She poisoned you against me for years, Noah. The reunion simply forced me to acknowledge how successful she'd been. Noah winced at the memory of his cruel words. I'm sorry for what I said that night. About Preston being a better father. You believed it at the time, Vincent observed without rancor. Your mother is exceptionally persuasive. Still, Noah insisted, I should have seen through her manipulation. Perhaps, Vincent allowed, but you've more than compensated through your testimony and subsequent choices. His phone vibrated with a news alert. Vincent checked the screen, his expression unchanged as he read the notification. The verdict? Noah asked. Vincent nodded. Guilty on all counts except one. Sentencing in 3 weeks, but the minimum mandatory is 20 years. Noah exhaled slowly. It's really over then. This chapter is, Vincent agreed. Life continues. Later that evening, as Noah slept inside the cabin, Vincent received a secure call from Sophia. Congratulations, Dad, she said when he answered. Justice served. At considerable cost, Vincent noted. But worth it, Sophia asked, knowing her father well enough to understand his calculus. Vincent gazed out at the moonlight reflecting off the Pacific. They took 15 years from me, Sophia. 15 years of lies, manipulation, and betrayal. They mocked me publicly, turned my son against me, and compromised operations that cost lives. And now they have decades to contemplate the consequences of underestimating a man they dismissed as a loser, Vincent replied, his voice carrying the finality of a closed account. So yes, worth every sacrifice. Noah's healing well, Sophia observed, changing subjects. His training reports are excellent. He has potential, Vincent agreed. Different from yours, but valuable in its own way. Will you tell him about the new assignment? The consultancy? Vincent smiled slightly. When he's ready, some talents shouldn't be wasted in retirement. After ending the call, Vincent remained on the deck until dawn, watching the inexorable rhythm of waves against stone. Nature's patient demonstration that even the hardest surfaces yield eventually to persistent force. Inside the cabin, Secure files weighted with details of emerging threats and requested assistance from agencies that valued Vincent's particular skills. His official retirement had never been intended as an ending, merely a transformation. The man who had been publicly humiliated at a family reunion, who had nodded and checked his watch and walked away rather than causing a scene, had not been demonstrating weakness. He had been exercising the patience of a master strategist who understood that true victory required not emotional outbursts, but calculated, relentless execution. As the first light of morning touched the horizon, Vincent Reynolds opened the file and began planning his next moves. The world had not become safer during his brief retirement. There were still threats to address, still justice to dispense. And Vincent, freed from the burden of pretending to be less than he was, had never been more dangerous. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen, and I'll see you there.